devastating drone attack against Russia, which has since dubbed Operation Spiderweb. Dozens of Russia's most valuable strategic bombers have been destroyed forever, with the most amazing thing being that Ukraine managed to carry out its strike from within Russia's territory. That would be devastating enough for Russian President Vladimir Putin. However, the worst thing about Operation Spiderweb, from Putin's perspective, is that Ukraine's drone strike just crushed Russia's spirit. And according to one military analyst who recently spoke to Times Radio, Russia may never recover from Operation Spiderweb. Now, before digging into that analyst's comment, it's worth starting with a brief recap of what Ukraine managed to achieve on June 1st. According to the Center for Strategic and International Studies, or CSIS, Ukraine spent around 18 months planning Operation Spiderweb. Between January 2024 and June 2025, Ukraine managed to smuggle over 100 drones, 300 explosive payloads, and modular launch systems across the border and into Russia. Those drones were transported via covert logistical routes, while concealed inside wooden cabins that had concealed roof areas to hide Ukraine's weapons. Once Ukraine managed to get its trucks into Russia, it sent them to a series of warehouses located hundreds of miles apart. It had 4 targets: Olenia Air Base in Murmansk, Belaya Air Base in Irkutsk, Dyagilevo Air Base located in the Ryan Oblast, and Ivanovo's self-titled air base. Ukraine chose these air bases for several reasons. In several cases, the bases were home to Russian Tu-160, Tu-95 and Tu-22 M3 strategic bombers, all of which Putin has used to launch hundreds of cruise missiles at Ukraine cities. Not only that, but these bombers are also capable of launching nuclear warheads, allowing Russia to accentuate its constant nuclear threats against Ukraine. The Dyagilevo is also where Russia sends its pilots for advanced strategic bomber training, along with being home to a repair and maintenance center for those aircraft. Ivanovo's airbase also housed an A-50 Airborne Warning and Control System, or AWACS aircraft, which helps Russia's bombers coordinate their attacks and evade Ukraine's air defenses. Ukraine couldn't hit those bases with long-range drones. According to CSIS, 2 of them were too far away for that approach. Belaya is in Siberia and almost 2,485 miles away, making long-range strikes almost impossible. Olenia is a little closer, at 1,180 miles from Ukraine's border, though still nestled deeply enough into the Arctic that Putin never thought it would be a target. No wonder he used the bases to house some of his most valuable strategic bombers. This sheer distance is what led to Ukraine's unique truck-based approach. Once it had its trucks safely stored in warehouses close to these 4 air bases, Ukraine bided its time. When it was ready, its operators called Russian truck drivers to transport the trucks. Those Russians didn't know they were working with Ukraine. All they were told was to drive the trucks carrying the drones to specific locations in the vicinity of the 4 airfields Ukraine targeted. On June 1st, Ukraine gave the order. The special roofs built into the wooden crates loaded onto the back of their trucks opened and quadcopter drones poured out. In seconds, those drones were making their way to the 4 air bases, evading Russia's air defense systems thanks to their close range. Strike after strike against Russia's aircraft followed. By the end of the brilliant Ukrainian assault, Ukraine had destroyed around 40 of Russia's aircraft, decimating 34% of its strategic cruise missile delivery capability, while costing Putin about $7 billion in high-value equipment. It was a devastating day for Russia and a massive success for Ukraine. That leads to the analysis. On June 2nd, Times Radio sat down with Falklands War veteran and former senior British military advisor to US Central Command in Florida, Major General Chip Chapman. The first question posed to Chapman was simple. What was the significance of Ukraine's massive drone assault? Chapman points out that the attack was significant from an escalation standpoint.
In terms of escalation, we look at 7 metrics generally: weapons, objectives, targets, geography, domains, rhetoric or mobilization.
He points out that Ukraine's attack was significant on both the targets and the geography front. Nowhere was that clearer than with the Belaya air base.
The most extensive one that they hit was over in Siberia at Belaya, which is 4,300 kilometers from Ukraine. That is way beyond the the zone of action, as it were, of any of the Ukrainian cruise missiles.
Chapman isn't wrong. Ukraine's longest range cruise missile is likely the domestically produced Long Neptune, which itself is an offshoot of the Neptune missiles Ukraine has used so effectively in the Black Sea. According to DW, Long Neptune is believed to have an effective range of around 620 miles, nowhere near enough for it to reach at least 2 of the 4 targets Ukraine hit on June 1st. Long Neptune could have hit the Dygalevo and Ivanovo air bases, but even then, it might have not been the best option. The missiles provides a fairly large target for Russia's air defenses and doesn't offer the precision that the first-person view